Hi and welcome to MoCDA Talk Series. We're talking to Indonesian digital and crypto artist Twisted Vacancy. Twisted Vacancy is based in Jakarta and his artist name originating from what the artist experiences as a form of conversation in his head. Heavily influenced by the 80s Japanese artist and 90s culture, Twisted Vacancy is representing many perspectives about life, pop culture, and esotericism through allegories of Southeast Asian culture. Enjoy the talk.
Hey, hello.
Hello.
Hi,
How are
nice to
you?
meet you. How are you?
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of crazy actually here due to this COVID issues, but I'm pretty well fine now. But how about you? How things going over there?
Yeah, it's crazy here as well. I don't know. I think we sort of got used now because it's been over a month, and
Yeah,
some people are now taking this as a new normality. So it
yeah,
feels normal now just to go out with masks, gloves, and everything. But everyone is sort of adapting to the new normality, which is
yeah,
very odd.
yeah,
And some people are simply just ignoring it, which is
yeah,
also bad. So yes, days here are quite nice. It's springtime, so it's sunny. It feels like you want to just go out, but you shouldn't. So yeah, what time is it there now?
It's 12 a.m. in the
Oh
night.
wow. Okay, okay. Sorry to keeping you up this late.
No, it's actually fine because I actually usually work at this time,
Hmm.
creating art a lot at this time, so actually it's fine with me.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. But
Really
yes,
honored
it's really.
to yeah, I really honored to be part of your live interview. I was a big fan of MoCDA, when the first time MoCDA like following me, I'm just like, oh my god, I got followed by MoCDA.
Oh wow, thank you. No, I really appreciate your work. I've discovered it actually through the non-origin platform. As I was looking through some works the other week,
Yeah,
and I bumped into your work, and I found it very captivating because it
thank
is
you.
digital,
Yeah,
but in a way it reminds you of something from like the 80s, as you
yeah,
describe it in your bio. So I was curious about how you got to mix different styles with such cutting edge technologies. If that's okay with you, I'm going to show some of the works that you've shared with me here on the
sure,
screen. So
sure,
maybe we can talk about it if you're okay with
sure.
that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, like this one, for example, it's a shame my face is actually going to be in the way. Let's pick another one. Or, to be honest, I really like this one. But yes, it's a shame that part of the artwork is cropped, but it's probably good for everyone, maybe just to go online and see the full scale work.
Yeah,
But yes, how did you get to start creating digital art? And then, in a way, I'm very interested because it's the first time I speak to a crypto digital artist from Indonesia.
oh yeah,
And I've traveled to
sure.
Southeast Asia, but I've never really realized that that there's actually a community supporting digital art. And I don't know, somehow it feels that more activities are sort of like in Europe or in the States or in China. So it is so interesting to learn from smaller communities in different countries all around the world and how actually we're all connected. So what was your journey? How did you get to discover crypto art and digital?
Okay, maybe first I'm going to talk about how I create my art. I kind of heavily influenced with 80s artists. If you know Tadanori Yoko, is Japanese artist from 80s.
Mm-hmm.
He used lots of collage technique in his artwork, but I kind of influenced by how he mixed all the colors. But when first time I tried how to make a collage, I think I'm not perfectly suited for that style because It's really, really different techniques from illustration, but I kind of do illustration for, I don't know, like 10 years. So basically, it's one of my forte. Then I try to mix all that using my unique color palettes. Like I did some research on color palettes as well, especially from 90s and 80s colors. But I actually kind of love how all the mid-century buildings were built. So I kind of mix all that up, and that's how I create my style actually. So about the crypto art scene, I think I'm the only crypto artist from Indonesia currently.
Yeah,
Oh,
because I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I don't know if there's anyone else out there, but how do you feel to be, you know, one
yeah,
of the few artists into crypto art?
yeah. Actually, the first time I usually showcasing my works on traditional art market here in Indonesia. I work closely also with Arts Council in my country and
Okay.
other artists as well. But I actually involved in some blockchain projects and other startup tech startups company. Then I just realized, is there any project that I don't know, art projects or something like that that use blockchain? Then I start researching it. Then I found like the first time I found it's OpenSea.io. Then I found Super Rare. So I started to jump into the scene to get how I want to get to know about how this community works. Turned out this really revolutionary, and how people work here is kind of different from the old traditional art market, and all the
How does that
potential
work?
behind.
Can you give us a little insight from, you know, how different you think it is, the art world, the art scene in Indonesia, and compared to the one in the Western countries?
Oh, about that, I'm gonna tell this. It's actually in here. It's not. It's a lot of different kind of artists, but I don't. The social layer here is really, really like dense. Like you know how there's a lot of, how do you explain it, like hungry artists. Like there's a lot of them here in Indonesia, that because art is not one of the industry that have a major focus on our country. So it's kind of hard to be an artist here, to live as an artist here. And if
Yeah.
they make their way to be success as a successful artist here, it's more like, I don't know, they keep it for themselves. So it's not about collaboration and stuff. So what I love from crypto art scene, it's all about collaborative way, uh, and for the Western art scene, is more like everything is about collaboration, right? Here, if you got in Indonesia, if you got on top, you do it by yourself. You won't share it with everyone. It's just like that. It's more like, you know, the limitation here is pretty big actually.
Right. I see. And how did you get to
Yeah.
start, like, you know, with the crypto art space, and also understanding more about the digital arts and getting to collaborate with artists? How did you get to know about this community? Did you
Yeah.
just do a research? Were you sort of exploring and finding ways to get a more sustainable way to work as an artist, or how did you come across?
Okay. I actually didn't work here to just to be a more sustainable artist, but I also want to exploring how the technology works. Since I told you before, I work with some of the tech startups company in my country. I do a lot of business development, especially in creative process or creative side for them. So I kind of exploring how, what's the potential that blockchain have for us. So actually, after I go here and there in crypto art scene, I kind of interested with some projects that I'm willing to brought to Indonesia because some of the I work closely with the government actually.
Okay.
So that's why here in Indonesia, it have a different potential use for blockchain, especially for proof of provenance
Yes.
to create royalty and secondary market sales for artists that I hope that can push how us Indonesian artists can more live more sustainable, something like that. So I kind of proposed that to them, but it's
Okay.
kind of postponed during this coronavirus thing. But
Yeah, of
I already
course. Yeah.
proposed them with the ideas. So I kind of chat with several projects and projects owner and several marketplace. And I really want bring them together to Indonesia and try to implement it like with top to down approach, maybe like with help of the government, because our government is kind of open with that things. I
Yeah, I
know
was gonna
what.
ask if you feel that in Indonesia, the government will be okay with having platforms trading digital art on blockchain, for example.
Yeah, they actually kind of open for new stuff because here's the thing, our country is still on development process. So if there's any technology that can push how we work on art in infrastructure level, I think they say that they really interested because we are still on the development, we still can have a lot of things that to be applied here. So it's more room for us to explore and use. So for the basic how they want to utilize the blockchain is actually just from the smart contract, how the artists can mint their works on blockchain and create a proof of provenance for their work. That's the very basic approach that we want to deploy.
Yeah, it makes sense, and I think it will certainly help artists
Yeah,
creating a value of system on the work,
yeah,
and getting it out there without fearing that anyone will sort of copying it.
yeah,
So that's definitely a good way, and I'm glad to hear that actually the arts and the government are in favor of such technology, because I think a
yeah,
lot of us are not aware of what is happening in different countries around the
yeah,
world. And yes, there is a community that is very supportive of one another.
yeah,
But I wanted to sort of go back to your art and your style, because I think I was talking to Prince Osinachi the other day, and
yeah,
something he said, and it really sort of touched me, is that you as an artist, the advice that he gave to artists is that you need to develop your own signature. You need to develop your
yeah,
own style so that
yeah,
people,
yeah,
when they see your work, they sort of recognize it.
yeah,
And even if you experiment through different media, they'll still see your signature.
yeah,
So you said about the colors palette that you've researched through the arts of the 80s and 90s. But I was wondering, what are these subjects and how do you go about selecting themes that you would like to describe? Because what I see, like in some works like this one or other works like this one, for example, is that there's a sort of a cyberpunk background mixed to elements from the 80s, very bright colors, but also going into the future with a vision, and it's very detailed. So I was curious about how do you build these stories, because I can see multiple narratives in conversation.
yeah.
So yeah, tell me about it.
So this is kind of funny actually because I think my DID is kind of benefiting me. I have one kind of disorder that I constantly hearing multiple voices and have multiple distinctive, like it's in some way I can have multiple perspective for everything.
Okay.
It's how to explain it easy. I can love and hate someone simultaneously. some sort of like that. So that's why I always, when I want to create an art, I always think about a theme and try to mix all the different approach from the theme I want to expose, that I want to tell the story about. So it's kind of mix there, and all the techniques I learned over the years, kind of mix it all together. So it's kind of create my own body of works, I think. So without I'm realizing, it's become my signature. Then I started to develop more my signature, learn about my body of works by, I don't know, like separating all the elements until I get the fully understanding about my own body of works. After I continue to develop it. I think it's really, really important to have a like your own body of works, to understand your body of works.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And in terms of the subject that you portray in your works, I can see, you know, I know very little about the symbolism or religion from your country, but I can definitely recognize a few elements. And I was curious to know, how do you mix themes from the future with religion symbols, for example, or very specific elements that are typical from your cultural background? Because I can spot some elements, and you know, it's refreshing to see culture dipping into the future and having this futuristic vision into something that looks and feels like coming from the 80s, but with a vision towards the future. So how do you go about merging those symbols?
I'm kind of interested with all the esoteric stuff that I got from the books I read all these years, but all the perspectives about esoteric things is kind of dark and some way depressing for me, even for me. But I really love how we can, with art, how we can display those contrasts. It's really, really interesting how we can alter that reality, how we can alter the perspective of that someone have about the esoteric things. Then I have an idea to mix them up together to create something more pop, I think.
Right.
Something that more enjoyable, but still have deep meaning into it. So I try to represent a lot of stories in my work. So that's just kind of how I came up with stuff, how to mix and match those things. I really want to display the contrast.
Yes, and I think you do that in a very beautiful way. Like, for example, in this
Thank
one, you
you.
can see elements of like the Bitcoin and the lonely girl, and then of course Japanese elements and the machinery, you know, these slot machines, and there's a lot of multiple layers that you can see through, yes, the video game. There's a mix of what we're currently experiencing versus what the future might look like and what the past looked like and felt like.
Yeah.
So I like this combination of elements that you are bringing together into one single artwork. And so there's multiple narratives ongoing at the same time. I wondered, for this piece, have you made this one recently?
Yeah.
For the pandemic? Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Because I wanted to ask you, I'm sorry that on the screen that's my face showing, but actually on the side of the screen where my face is, there's a girl wearing a mask, and I think there's flowers coming out the mask. Am I right?
Just kind of smell the flowers through the mask.
Yeah. And and I was curious to know, how does it feel to make art during such a weird time? And how what's the story behind what we're seeing here?
Actually, I created this one for donation projects in my country. I work with some of the volunteer team in my country for self-diagnosis program and all the free masks that they gave to all the doctors, because we kind of sort of that thing. So they started the project. So I think I can collaborate with that. So I created this, so people can get this artwork by donating any numbers, and all that will be converted into free mass for everyone that needs it. I tried to catch all these moments into this piece. It's actually based from a Japanese legends called Amabi. You can search the hashtag Amabi. It's actually a story about a Japanese yokai that actually have long hair and beak.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I kind of try to represent it by the girl and how she wear mask. But as you can see, I try to catch the things in this artwork. Is like you can see the store is close. They have they have distance. I try to give something pop here because it's kind of cheesy love story there. The girl is actually admiring the boy is actually admiring the girl, but one of the caption that I gave is okay, we have a social distancing, but actually I never close with her anyway, so that's why as you can see the boy face is kind of sad. But the running text, it's actually an animated GIF piece. So the running text is above is actually my heart is still open anyway. So even the story is closed, my heart is always open anyway for you. It's actually kind of represent how social distancing affect us. The only thing that we have is our heart to each other, right? Because we can meet each other physically anymore, but what if we care about people? That what makes us a human, or now it's actually our heart to people, some sort of like that.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful description, and I totally understand that we as humans, we feel the need of touching one another and stay close. And now with the social distancing, all of this is not allowed. And what you said, about the fact that the girl is always being far and distant from the guy looking at her from afar, and that now you feel that because you don't have that opportunity, even if it hasn't happened before, now you feel it more than ever, because at least before you felt that you had an opportunity, and now it's kind of like, no, it's a no-go. So it is interesting how perhaps social distancing, once this crisis will be over, will probably make us realize that, time is something that we feel and we perceive, and is so, easy to get lost. We play with actions without really realizing that once these actions are no longer available to us, we might not get a second chance, So these opportunities are all...
That's why, as you can see, that the death is all over the guy. You can see the skull. That's why it's kind of like he might realize better things after the pandemic gone. But it's kind of depressing for the guy because death is all over him.
Yes, exactly. So it is a nice way of putting it. It's kind of like playing with, in a very ironic way, with skeletons sitting next to him, and a very beautiful girl walking past, and then you've got a coffin. And tell me, you always place like a Game Boy or Japanese elements in your work. Is it like a tribute to the Japanese culture, or how do you feel?
Yeah, since this is like the writing on the bottom of the artwork, it's called how you say it? It's Densetsu no Amabi. It's kind of legend of Amabi. So it's kind of tribute to their yokai legend.
Okay, I see. Thank you. There's a question that we had earlier. I'm just going to share it with you. So somebody's asking how art and technology become part of the art system in Indonesia. So how does art and technology become part of the art system in Indonesia? Is there an institution that does research in this field?
Okay, this is actually interesting because creative industry is one of the largest, contributor in our country's income, actually, but they don't have a way to manage it better. That's why there's a huge potential you can use technology and art to create a better economy for everyone. Because
Yes.
this is the simple thing that happened in my country. They still don't have clear records about all the artists in Indonesia. That's kind of sad. And one of the ministry is kind of called me and my friends. They asked, we want to create a database for every artist. Do you have any ideas? We want to create do you know Yellow Pages book?
Yes.
Yes, it's 2020 and they want to create a book for that artist database. I said like, hell no. Let's just implement blockchain on this. It's 2020 and you still want to use a book. Like, I think how much artists that you can put their data there? No, it's clearly not cater a lot of needs that we actually need. So I think website is more better than a book. But then I give them some, how about blockchain? It's really happening right now and really have a huge potential to it. So I think, like I said before, how we need to work use technology in art as an infrastructure, more like fundamental things that with hope that it can leverage the economy more. I think it's kind of, there's a lot of like chance here. There's a lot of playing space here where you can explore all the technology and the potential, because actually our government is kind of open with that kind of thing.
That's really good to hear, actually. Yes, because there's blockchain technology. It is widely used here, but in a way, it's this forbidden word that if you do say I'm using technology such as the blockchain, a lot of people struggle to understand it. Not because it is a difficult technology to understand. I think it's mainly because it's not widely spread among different industries. So it is very used in some specific field, but it's not common knowledge to everyone. So I think people still need to adapt, and in a way, until the technology will have reached, a wider audience, it will still be difficult. And I know that there's been up and downs. In 2017, there's been a lot of fundraising that's gone through blockchain's companies raising funds for activities, and then nothing really came out of it. So only like maybe 20%, to be generous, of those initiatives actually are still living through the creations and the initiatives that they've created. So I think, because of that, and because of like historical facts over the past 2 years, that it feels like 10 years, but it's actually been squeezed in a shorter time, it has been challenging for the wider industries to keep up with time and adapt, to technologies. And I can tell you that a lot of public organizations are still not into the use of technology yet. They're using technologies to display the works, and especially now with the lockdown, a lot of galleries and museums have reverted online with viewing rooms. But in terms of the economy, I think there's a lot that need to be explored, especially because models that we used to know probably will need to be revolutioned in a way to be, you know, to remain sustainable. So it is
Yeah.
interesting to know that countries like Indonesia are actually looking at such opportunities with an open, you know, open eyes towards what the future and technology could bring for the good of artists. I wanted to ask you, how do you feel you can contribute, or you're already contributing, because you said you're in conversation with the arts culture in your country, but how do you feel, I'm not sure about where exactly you live in Indonesia, but how do you feel about connecting with the community in your country and keeping artists informed about what is the current state of the art?
Yeah.
Is there any
It's
activity that you run, like a blog post, or how do you reach out to each other?
So I actually kind of have this class in my country, and I actively creating class, especially how for licensing industry in my country, that I give in class for the artists, how to create a style guide, how to deal with, how to work better, how to set your artwork and body of works to meet the required standard of licensing industry. So
Okay. You talking more
along with
about
that,
commercial art,
yeah,
or
yeah,
okay?
more like commercial art. Then in during the session, I usually like updating them and giving all the information that I got about. It's actually kind of hard in Indonesia to introduce no technology to artists because they kind of old-fashioned. Even for my generation, they kind of what is blockchain? They all know what is Bitcoin, but they still Bitcoin is Bitcoin. It's kind of different, right? Blockchain and cryptocurrency, it's clearly different thing, and it takes time to introduce it to them. But I try to explain to them in layman terms. So it's something like I try to explain how the benefits of secondary art sales, like how it's important to have proof of provenance in your work, even you don't sell it on the marketplace like super rare or something. We aim to push how we can use blockchain to create a certificate of authenticity by minting the assets or the artwork there. So that's how I try to leverage the condition in my country. And I also talk with the government, and like I'm proposing the ideas how to create an easy minting platform for everyone. And what I'm interested is I want to explore how all the in crypto art scene, all the project is organically created by a team or individuals that complement each other. But I'm really interested in what if a government try with a top to down approach, so
Yeah,
it
you were
will be
saying
more
earlier.
used wide. Yeah. So with hope that it can be used more widely. I think it's kind of interesting. With the government power, we can breach all the entry barriers that we have on crypto art scene.
And do you do this online? Do you take classes online?
No, most of the time I created on a co-working space in my country, but during this coronavirus thing, there still haven't any class yet. But planning will do it soon in online as online class.
Okay. And what about you based? Are you in Jakarta or?
Yes, I'm in Jakarta.
Okay, good. Okay, cool, cool. Yeah. And I wanted to ask you if you would like to tell us, how about your name, um, you know, came to life? You know, Twisted Vacancy, what does it stand for? What do you want to say with that?
I don't know how to explain this
Because I
because
like it. I
it's
like it. It's very
yeah.
captivating. Is a fun name, but yeah, I wanna know the story.
Okay, it's actually kind of a funny story, but yet depressing one for me.
Okay. Are
It's
you happy to
okay
share it with
because
us? Is that okay?
yes, yes, sure. So basically, due to my DID and my disorder, all my disorder, I constantly hearing voices in my head. It's kind of twisted thing for me to have all those feelings simultaneously. But after all these voices, after all these thoughts in my mind, I still feel that emptiness in me. Like, I don't know, just like feel empty. I don't have any purpose in life. Like, those kind of feelings came like often in me. And then I just came with, okay, because all those twisted things and all the emptiness I felt, I think like when I tried to create an Instagram profile before, it's just like, okay, it seems like Twisted Vacancy is a good name.
I really like it. Yes. And when did you start creating art? Was that always part of your life, or was that a moment where you were like, I'm gonna start making digital art? Or have you always made digital art, or did you go through any other medium?
Okay, it's actually, I actually spent most of my time back then working with all the artists, working in creative industry in my country. But I always making digital art before. I always creating illustration before. But it's for my therapy actually. How because I can't always express what kind of thoughts that I have in mind. So my doctor said like you better find a way to express your thoughts. And I found that I like have a music before, but it's not more free like digital art or illustrations.
Mm-hmm.
It can articulate what happened in my minds better. So I keep drawing back then for I don't know, maybe for 6 years, 6 years. But I always keep them for myself until like last year, my friend finally see all my artwork like, dude, come on, you must showcase your works on all the people in arts
Your friend
council.
is right,
Oh, so you
yes.
can, yeah, like then some people in my arts council, it's like, okay, you actually can draw. Yes, I did all, I did it like most of my time. You must create an exhibition. We want to create an exhibition. I'm just like, oh, really? That's just how I finally think that I have to showcasing my artworks. So beside all the tokenized artworks and all artworks that been exhibited somewhere, I have really lots of drawing in my hard disk. It's like 3 terabytes or something. Since I like almost drawing like every day.
And are you planning on doing any online exhibition or physical exhibition, or what's your next project?
I'm really interested to have a physical exhibition, but the closest one I really want to create an art book because I can't tokenize all my works, but I really want everyone to enjoy it. So I'm planning to have an art book. But the nearest one is I'm working on DAO project with Meta Factory.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of create a style guide for my body of works, and I try to implement them with DAO and
Mm-hmm.
how the DAO can reproduce always fresh and new artworks because I kind of give all my techniques in the guide, so it's kind of limited. People that it's kind of limited. I don't know. It's the limitation of the owner of the DAO. I still haven't got the information about it, but it's the focus is for more like commercial art, something like what licensing industry have, but we try to build it on top of blockchain to create more decentralized system. And how this is how I think about it. Even if I die, they can still produce something that really twisted vacancy. So
So
it's
that,
kind of interesting.
yeah. So I understand. So even if you were going to be missing, the organization could still produce something that would have your signature.
Yes,
That's what
because
you
I'm
think.
kind of yes, that's because I'm kind of use what licensing industry have the approach by separating all the visual elements like my signature elements, my color palette and color swatch, the technique I use, like how to build a scenery, my ratio that I used for scenery. I kind of compile it in one guidebook. So it's like Twisted Vacancy Bible there. So so all what the DAO can always produce new works from that, and the visual asset banks is kind of growing over time.
I
I'm going
see.
to update it like 3 months, every 3 months.
And would you be happy for people to use the Twisted Vacancy Bible to create works? And how would you go about authenticity, for example? Who would the
Okay,
work belong to?
okay, it's
I'm
for now
curious.
with yeah we're with the DAO. It's kind of limited for the owner of the token, the Twisted Vacancy DAO token. It's kind of limited for them, and they have the rights because I will have my fair share for it. But first, we want to focus it on the merchandising. But if finally, if let's say that I'm not here anymore, like they will have fair share for their. It seems it's similar like they investing on Twisted Vacancy name. Now Twisted Vacancy is like more like company. They have share for it. I
So it's like
provide
you're
them with the
building,
visual.
it's like you're building a brand.
Yes, totally.
I see. Okay, that's very curious. I haven't heard anyone else doing something like this and using a DAO to implement it. So it's quite curious to learn about your interest
It's
in
coming
creating
really
that.
soon.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, there was a question earlier. How does crypto art relate to the art of the past? I mean, you sort of addressed this question already, but if yeah, what are your thoughts about using crypto and blockchain to support art from the past?
I think it started from how you can create a clear database from it, an immutable database for the art, so you can have clear records of it, how you can maintain the value of it, even its work from the past. So it's kind of interesting to distributing all the rights for someone that really owns it. It's kind of interesting how the potential that we have there.
I think you should get in touch with Jason Bailey. I don't know if he's still watching this live, but he is the founder of ArtNome and he's been working on creating database for art.
Oh, really?
Yes, because he realized that there wasn't an archive of art.
Yeah.
So he's actually one of the person you probably should get in touch to.
Yeah, because I'm really interested to work more fundamentally because it's kind of important to have that so people can iterate more after that. But at least we can prepare all the ecosystem that all the artists need. Started from how they mint to create a database. We start to create immutable metadata for that. It's kind of interesting to have that. It's kind of important for the future. If we want to go to the future that we're always dreaming about in arts, this is where we should start. Start from the database. I really believe in the power of data.
We nearly reached like our session here, but I wanted to ask you, what is your vision on the future and how do you think, what we're currently experiencing will influence you as an artist and the community, especially,
Okay.
referring to Indonesia?
Yeah, with more sustainable ecosystem, with more sustainable approach in how we create art, how we implement technology in our art. It's kind of interesting that for me in Indonesia, I really want to see if the artist is a real job. There's a lot of stigma here that artist is not a real job. it's
Yeah.
more kind of seasonal job.
Well,
Still happen a
it's
lot.
similar here as well. I suppose
Oh,
that there
really?
are a number of artists that can make a living out of what they do, but it can be challenging for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. It's really challenging because currently, I really see that the marketplace in crypto art scene have all their collectors kind of all the transactions kind of liquid, but how we we really how we really need to connect how the economic models work with current digital art ecosystem with more like with licensing licensing industry approach. I think it's kind of connecting all the dots that we need to create more sustainable ecosystem for the art industry.
I understand. And how do you think, what we are experiencing will influence the way you create art in terms
Sorry,
of,
it's kind of cracking here.
sorry, yes, I was asking, how
Uh,
do you feel what we are currently experiencing with the lockdown will influence the way you are creating art in terms of the subjects you're using in your works?
okay, in here it's actually affecting a lot of artists. I kind of lucky actually because I involved in crypto art scene, but all my friends here, it's they get the most damage of all. Like in the gig economy in Indonesia, it's not really good. It's really affecting them that bad.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we need to um, connect all these economic models with the technology and all the available technology with the current art scene, even it's on the traditional art scene. It's to avoid this kind of thing in the future. It's not going to happen just this once. We will have more damaging economy for the artists in the future. We might have that. So how we can create more sustainable ecosystem for all that, so I hope we can avoid that in the future.
Yes, yes, I hope too. And I hope we find systems of keeping it sustainable for everyone, even if we
Yeah,
have crises like one we're
yeah.
living through. And the in your works, you find these worlds that travel through your mind. Do you see different styles coming through after what we're experiencing, or how would you include the current experience into your work? Like, for example, in this one, you acknowledge what is currently happening, but I'm curious to know if you feel that your style might be influenced by the current state.
How to explain it? How my style, sorry, it's how my style influenced by the current states. Actually,
Yes.
it's
I mean,
I
you as a
really
human being may be observing and absorbing the surrounding. How do you feel these will be translated into your art, or if it
okay.
would at all?
Okay, it's kind of can be seen all across all my works or my previous works, that how I try to represent stories, how I try to set all these depressing moods into this one particular works. It's kind of how I translate all those what happened around me into works. So sometimes my works is kind of depressing. Sometimes even all with those colors, it's still you can still feel the depression in this one, right?
Well,
Yeah, that's it.
yes, but in a way, it's joyful. It's full of colors. Um, it's very, there's a dynamic in the work. And it's pop. So even if it has a lot of iconic symbols like the coffin, the skeleton, the rose, the sun, a lot of elements, it is pop. So in the pop culture, all of these is seen also as an element of um, distraction as well and belief into something that has its own values. You know, as pop culture, you believe in some things that are part of that culture. So I find it, you know, I don't find it depressing. I can read different layers, and of course it is touching me on different levels, you know, emotional levels. But in a way, I also really like the face in the top corner, that is kind of overlooking through the whole scene, you know, kind of like, it's like this entity, this God knows the story, and
Yeah.
is kind of looking through it with a vision on the future. That's how I read
Yeah.
it. So to me, it's kind of like this already belongs to the past. You know, we've already
Yeah.
gone over this
Yeah.
situation. So that's why, in a way, it's kind of like, you know, and the girl walking through, it's leaving things behind and walking through a new future. That's how I interpret it.
Okay. That's actually, that's one of the that interests me the most, that it's actually become my goals, that when you going deep into my art and asking about what's the story behind it, sometimes you kind of find all these unique stories or depressing one from my art. But what my goals is, I always say that in many interviews before, like, there's a lot of story I try to represent it in my art, but if you don't want to know about it, like, you can just enjoy the color. It's so pop. It's really joyful. That's how I want to make art. I want people to enjoy my works. That's all. So even people don't want to understand the story behind it, they still want to, they still can enjoy it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And I feel that the design, the colors, it brings a lot of positivity. There's somebody that shared a very nice thought about your work that says the depressing, in brackets, elements are seen as positive, like a transition. And it is very true. You know, it is like going through the story that can include some very dark moments to then see the light afterwards, you know. And that's how I feel about your work. And I like the fact that you take on a lot of elements from the cyberpunk and the 80s and 90s graphics and colors, and take them into a more futuristic view and take them into the crypto art world. So it is very fascinating. I just wanted to thank you for sharing your story with me
thank
this
you.
afternoon, and thank you everyone watching, sharing questions, comments. It's been very wonderful to learn about you and to learn about how things are working over there. Yes, thank you so
Yeah.
much. It's been
Thank
really,
you so
really
much.
nice.
I'm really happy to join this session because I'm kind of a big fan of MoCDA, and
Oh,
I
thank
don't know,
you.
I always interested with all kind of organization that
Mhm.
really put their mind to the movement and all the arts itself. That's why I kind of pay attention to it. That's why I feel honored to be the part of this session. So thank you. Really,
It's been
thank you.
really nice connecting with you, and thank you for your time. And sorry for keeping you up this late.
It's okay. It's really fun.
Okay, well, thank you. I hope you carry on sharing art, and you know, take care, stay safe, and
You too.
keep positive, because you know, I see a lot of new ways of imagining the world in your work.
Yes.
So thank
Yes.
you so much
Thank
for your
you.
work. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye. Bye.